booktube. I needed a little bit of self-care today, and so I decided I would make a video and get to visit with all of you, which I love. If you're new, my name is Kelly. Thank you so much for watching my channel, Books I'm Not Reading. I am here to do the How Do We Rate Our Books tag, which I believe was created by Emily at Novelle Novels. Or Novelle Novels, and I was tagged by Jim at Jim's Books Reading and stuff, and you have to do the arm gesture with Jim's channel. So, but I thought I watched Jim's version of this tag, and I thought it was interesting. It's kind of making me think a little bit about rating books. So question number 1. How often do you DNF, and what makes you DNF? So I don't think I have DNF'd a book since I've been on booktube. I didn't do a whole lot of DNFing even pre-booktube, basically because I don't pick up I know this sounds weird, but every time I pick up a book, I'm expecting a 4 or 5-star read, right? I mean, why else would you read it? Don't you want it to be wonderful? Like, don't you? I mean, I suppose sometimes like we read maybe like junk food for our minds or whatever, but most of the time I'm picking up a book expecting it to be amazing. And I have seen, I don't have an example of course, but I do feel like sometimes the ending can really change your mind about how you feel about a book. Sometimes I just kind of, it's just not the right moment to read a book. I was talking about Barbara Kingsolver because I just got Demon Copperhead to read hopefully this year. Fingers crossed. And I had started one of her books like 20 years ago. I was trying to read the Poisonwood Bible. I still feel like I could come back to that book. But I for some reason, it just wasn't the right moment. And so I set it down. There have been like a few, sort of book club books maybe that I was like, no, this is not the right book for me. I mean, I have read some really terrible books in my time and finished and persevered till the end, but it really is, it really takes an awful lot for me to DNF a book just because, well, for one thing, I'm on, I'm trying to talk about books to all of you, and again, so yeah, I don't pick up things that I don't think are gonna be good. Unless, like I said, like sometimes we need some fluff, we need something a little bit lighter. It's maybe not gonna like blow our minds away, but just be a pleasurable read. So question number 2, do you rate books 1 star? So I do my ratings on Goodreads, and I feel like I have given books all across the board from no stars, 1 star, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Like I cover the whole gamut. I'm not afraid to give a book a bad rating. So yeah, like 1 star, yeah. Definitely, I'm sure I've read a 1-star book, unfortunately, right? I remember when Jason and I worked for Barnes & Noble, I really tried to devote myself in the fall one year to the mystery section because I was having a really hard time hand selling any mysteries, because aside from Agatha Christie, like just wasn't as familiar with them. and, you know, telling someone that like, well, my mom really likes these books and my grandmother really liked these books, it's not a great way. It's not a great way to sell a book. So I remember reading Nevada Barr's first book in her like National Park series mysteries. And I hated that book. So I probably gave that no stars or 1 star would be my guess. And if I don't have it anymore. I try really hard not to keep bad books around unless my other half wants to read them for some reason. I usually know if he will find something redeeming in a book. Question number 3, what is a 2-star book to you? So 2 stars would mean like maybe there was like a really great line in the book, or, you know, there was kind of like maybe I saw something, some potential or something in it, but it's not something I would recommend, and it's not something that I would plan on reading, rereading. So maybe it's a book that, yeah, like there's a little part of it that I enjoyed, and that bumps it up from being like 1, which is just like I absolutely hated it. You know, 2, I still wouldn't recommend to any of you, but yeah, maybe there was like an element to the story that made me, I don't know, just bumped it up a little tiny bit. Let's see. Is a 3-star book a good book for you? I think this is a really interesting question. Is a 3-star book a good book for you? So for me, a 3-star book is a meh. Like, I'm kind of lukewarm about it. Like, it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't amazing. It wasn't a book I wanted to like burn or throw away or like I had to get it out of my house right away. Definitely not. And I do give a lot of books 3-star books, because even though I'm expecting a lot, like it gets harder and harder to meet those expectations, right? So yeah, I think a 3-star book for me is, again, maybe some of that lighter stuff that I read, you know, just to read something that's not as intense as what I've previously been reading. I know when I was reading Mrs. Dalloway earlier this year, I was like, and we went straight from Mrs. Dalloway into The Hours by Michael Cunningham, which I'm really glad that we did. I think if I had just been reading that on my own, I would have needed something in between to break it up a little bit. So I would say a 3-star book is like it was okay. And that I think maybe other people might enjoy it. I'm just, you know, again, I don't know if I'm gonna, it seems unlikely that it would be something that I would reread, but you never know. Let's see here. What does 4 stars mean to you? So 4 stars is a book that, so the ratio on 2-star books of like something that's good to the rest being bad, like 4 stars is like the opposite of that. So there's like something in it that I didn't care for, I didn't like, but like everything around it, right? So it's kind of like an 80 to 20 maybe ratio. Like 80% of the book is really good. And there's just like 10 or 20% in there that is not quite as well. But it would still be a 4-star book. I would still definitely recommend. Still would be something that I could potentially reread in the future. And you can see the books that I've been reading since I've been on BookTube if you connect to my Goodreads account down below. And you can look at like what I've given all of these different things. But again, a 4-star book is like, Okay, so I have this thing of like books that I know, like, oh, I know not everything is perfect in that book. I know that North and South has some problems. However, setting those problems aside, I absolutely love that book. So I know that there's like some kind of like nagging little things that are a little bit troubling or whatever, but I overall, like, I love it. And I may have given North and South 5 stars. I'm not sure, but yeah. So even though, yeah, I have these books that I'm like, okay, I know it's not perfect, but it's still like really, really good. Like, what's good is excellent. Okay. Do you ever do half-star ratings? And, you know, there are a lot of books where I'm like, is it a 3 or is it a 4? Or is it a 4 or is it a 5? Like, those kinds of things. Like, or is it a 1 or a 2? So I definitely wrestle with that, but because of the way Goodreads is set up, like, I mean, I can't, and that's the only place I would keep ratings. So I can't give things half stars, but I wish that was a feature that we could use on Goodreads, but I don't know, maybe someday in the future. Let's see. Do you rate books 5 stars often? What do 5-star books do to make them rate that high? Okay. So do I rate, I mean, again, like, I expect every book that I read to be 5 stars. I am about to start reading Fine Balance by Rohinton Mystery. In part because of some of the great things I've heard from some of you and Jason, like, I fully expect this book to be 5 stars. I mean, life is too short to read books that you're like, well, I think this is gonna be 2 stars, or I think this is gonna be 1 star. Like, no, like, we need to have high aspirations for what we're reading. And let's face it, there are plenty of books out there that that deserve, I mean, again, my channel is pretty heavy on the classics, so yeah, like, I have high expectations for what I choose to read. I think for me, a 5-star book is something that I would recommend to anyone. A 5-star book is a book that I would want to return to in the future. Yeah, so one of my rating problems, and I know this is an issue, but it's really hard for me not to give Shakespeare 5 stars, regardless of like how I feel about the play, or, you know, I don't know. It's Shakespeare, and so I think I have maybe given a few Shakespeare plays less than 5 stars, but that's a really difficult thing for me to do. So I'm probably a bit biased about Shakespeare. But everyone else, again, like, and when I read a Shakespeare play, again, fully expecting it's going to be 5 stars. So yeah, so those are, I mean, how could you not recommend Shakespeare to someone? Pride and Prejudice, yeah, 5 stars all the way. I'm trying to think of some other, Les Miserables I read earlier this year, 5 stars. This has been, so far this year, I have read really challenging books, but really excellent books. And I mean, Les Miserables, like, oh my God, that book is just still like beating within my heart. Like, I loved it. Question 8, has your rating of books changed over the years? I actually think this is the most interesting question in the tag, because I think my my ability to read things, especially because I know now when I read something, I'm going to talk to all of you about it. And so that has made me slow down. And it has just made me a much more critical reader. I also think buddy reads can really change my mind about, oh, like I missed this component to it. And it was really interesting because on Jim's channel, he has recently been talking about The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. And I think the first time he read this, he gave it 1 star, and then he read it this year and he gave it 4 stars. And I actually read this, I think my first year on booktube. And I was just kind of, again, like, meh, like, and I'm like, okay. And I also wonder sometimes, now, obviously this wouldn't be true for Jim, but, like, for me, I feel like there's a certain point in time, like, there's a certain moment sometimes to read a book, and have it really resonate and like strike that like deep chord within us. I think middle grade and some YA books definitely have the ability to do that. I honestly felt like Catcher in the Rye, like maybe it wasn't the right, I should have read it sooner. I can't believe we didn't read it in high school, but we did not. Actually, one of my experiences on booktube, I reread Beloved, which I hadn't read since college, and it was the class I took it for was just absolutely horrible. And I realized that I needed to give that book another chance because it seems like and it is a very important book in American literature, I think. So when I reread it, you know, not reading it in a classroom, I did read it as a buddy read, and it was really, really a completely different experience. So I think definitely my rating of books has changed over the years. Question 9, where do you record your ratings of your books? So again, ratings are all recorded on Goodreads, which is linked to down below. But for myself, and I was so happy to see that Jim also had something like this. So you can see it's so beat up. It used to be all little flowers. Like you can kind of get a glimpse of it. But this is my book journal. And it makes frequent appearances on my channel. But I have been keeping track of the books I have read since 1996, and I believe the very first book, the first book in here is Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. So this is where I'm at so far. So all of these represent books that I've read since 1996. And if you don't keep a book journal, I would really encourage you to. This little journal here would tell you a lot about what was going on in my life during a certain period of time. Like there are wedding planning books, like as I was, you know, getting ready to get married. There are books about epilepsy after my epilepsy diagnosis. There are things that I've read multiple times. So I love that Jim has also, I think he's been keeping his since the 90s. So yeah, it's a really interesting way to look at how your tastes change, what is important to you at a certain period of your life, you know, and what maybe not so much, but I'm really, really glad that I have this. I am not going to tag anyone for this because I don't know, it feels like quite a few people have done this. If you haven't done this tag, I would encourage you to do it, or maybe you want to take one of those questions and talk about, you know, how have your ratings changed over the years and give really specific examples or something like that. Anyway, I I tag you if you'd like to be tagged. And if you don't have a channel and you'd like to answer these questions, please feel free to put that in the comments section. I would love to know how you rate books, where you keep track of that. Do you have a book journal? How long have you been doing that? Or do you just use something electronic? Anyway, so I'd love to hear from you down below in the comment section. As always, if you don't feel comfortable leaving a comment, you can leave me an emoji or give this video a thumbs up as a way to say hello. I do appreciate it. Booktube, remember to be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and I'll be back soon with another video. Bye.